Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to a 3-part tutorial series on how to make your very own Minecraft intro animation. So here's where we left off. We just created our chest and we've got our controller here and our own object. Mine's a carrot, yours may be something else. And in this lesson what we're going to do is go ahead and do the animation for the actual animation aspect of our video. And so what I'm going to start off by doing is I'm going to create a new camera. So I'm going to go create camera and drop it in there. I'm going to hit the R key, scale it up, and I'm going to move it back. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'll grab my actual carrot over here in the channel box. You can see I've got all of these operations here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the history. And I'm just going to move that out of the way for now, and I'll move my chest back into the middle. So I'll just come over the translate X and I'll put in a 0 here, so that moves it back into the center. So now we have a camera that is looking at our chest, and we can go to panels, perspective, and camera 1 to see what that looks like. Okay, well, we'll come back to that later. So for now, what we're going to do is start animating the chest. And I'm going to introduce an important concept in this lesson, that is the graph editor. This allows us to transform how our actual animation keys are interpreted between our main poses. If that doesn't make too much sense, don't worry, I'll explain it all as we get into it. So I'm going to start off by turning our chest, I'm going to turn it in the rotate Y 180 degrees. So I'm basically just turning it away from the camera there. I'm going to right click on the rotate Y and click key selected. So this is going to set a keyframe here. You can see it's come up as a red bar in the timeline, and I've set my actual key range to 100. You can do that down here. If you just type in 100, that'll give you a range of 100 keyframes, which is just over 4 seconds. So from here, what I'm going to do is if I jump forward until say frame 30, I'm going to change this to negative 360. And in fact, I'm going to just have this, if you look, this rotates in like that. I'm going to have this just rotate a little bit further. So I'll put in minus 365. So that's just going to come a little bit past. And then I'll jump forward 15 frames to 45. And I'll send this back 10. So minus 355. Jump forward another 15 frames. I'll have this come back to the center. One more time. Through to say frame 75, and I'll key in minus 358, and then once again through to 90, minus 360. And what this is going to do is I'll play this animation for you. We rotate, and then it kind of teeters back and forth a little bit here and loses its energy. So that's not actually looking too bad to start off with. What I am going to do before I go ahead and do some more animation is I'm going to change the order at which the animation engine in Maya calculates the rotation values. So at the moment, if I click on the attribute editor and click on the actual control for the chest, there's an option down here that says rotate order. And what this means is it's going to do the X first, then the Y, and then the Z. But I really want it to do the Y first, and then the X, and then the Z. And this will become more apparent later on. So I'm going to change this to YXZ. Okay. So it hasn't changed anything, but now when I go to animate some other of the rotation, it's going to always preserve the first bit of rotating along the Y-axis that we set up. So the next thing that I'm going to go and do is I'm going to set a keyframe along the X-axis. So I'm going to set one here at 0 to start off with. And then I'm going to come through to 30. And I'm going to change this to 20. And so now our chest is pointing down. So I can play this through. And you'll see that, oops, sorry, I haven't actually keyframed this. So I'm going to add 0. I'm going to right click and key selected. Put in 0 there. And then it should come and be 20 here. Yep, that's looking good. So I can play this through, and you can see as I start animating, you can see that the ring is starting to tilt. It tilts as it spins, it stops here and teeters a bit, and then it rotates back. So what I actually want to do is just make sure, there we go. I'm just going to go ahead and just leave this at 20 here at the end, just so it stays there. Not too bad. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is the scale. So when an object is rotating, it tends to push its mass to the outside. If you've ever thrown water in a bucket around over your head, you'll notice the water stays in the bucket. And so it's Newton's third law of motion, and it's what we're going to try and do and simulate here as well. So as this chest spins, we want it to kind of stretch out. And in real life, this wouldn't really happen, but this is kind of a stylized expression of it. And this principle of animation is called squash and stretch. So I'm going to start off by selecting the scale values here, right-clicking and selecting key selected. And I'm going to run through until about frame 24. And here I'm going to change the scale X to 1.1, the scale Y to 0.9, and the scale Z also to 1.1. And what we've done here is we've kind of squished it down and flattened it out a bit. And then when it gets back through to 30 here, I want to change it so they're all one again. So it kind of squishes down and then it jumps back up. So if we play that through now, you can see it spins, it squishes down, it's most squished at 24 and then pops back up just before it stops. Alright, well, it's coming along so far. We'll play this through. Nice. So what I'm going to do now is introduce you to the graph editor, and I'll show you what this means. So let's go to Window, Animation Editor, Graph Editor. And you can see here, this is a representation of the value that I'm animating on the vertical axis. And on the horizontal axis is a representation of time. So if you look at my green line here, this represents the rotation. So you can see it starts off, it gets really fast here, and then it kind of slows back down towards the end. What I actually want to do is kind of have it halt rather abruptly down here. And to do that, I'm going to select Curves, Weighted Tangents, and I'm going to go into, click this button here that says Free Tangent Weight. And I'm also going to click Break Tangents. And so now I have independent control over this tangent, which is going to affect how my curve looks. So I'm going to grab that and actually slide that right in up close. And then if I play my animation, you can see what the difference is. So it starts off, and then it stops rather abruptly. Nice. And you can see as well in here, I have got rotate value up the end here. I actually didn't want that. If you have that value for some reason, you can delete that. If you don't have it, just carry on without it. But I'm just going to hide the graph editor for now, and that pretty much rounds out our chest animation. Now, remembering from our last video that our controller controls the entire assembly, but we can still click on each part and animate that individually. And I'm going to animate the chest lid popping open here. So I'm going to go through at the start, and at frame 25, I'm going to set a rotation keyframe for rotate X. And then I'm going to come through to 35 just after it's stopped, and I'm going to spring this wide open. And you can see the two red keyframes down here, so we can play this through and see what it looks like. And open. Nice. And normally when you flip something open really fast, it might bounce off the back or something like that. So I'm going to just sift through until frame 40 here, and then I'm going to just tone this back down to say 117. And so now when this flips open, it'll bang against the back and bounce forward a little bit. And this just goes to make a bit of a more realistic animation. So I can click play, you see that open up. Nice. That's not looking bad at all. So we can go and click on the panel button here, perspective, and look at our camera. And our camera is a little bit close, and what I'm going to do here is on the left hand side there is a two view split, so I'm going to click that, and on the right up here in the panel, sorry, on the left, I'm going to select perspective, camera 1. And I'm going to shift the divide over, so now I've got a view between my main perspective, and this view is going to be our camera. So what I'm going to do is, again, by clicking in the camera view, hit the 6 key on the keyboard. That's going to change it to a shaded perspective. And I'm actually going to click this button at the top here. That is my film gate, and that'll allow me to see what the camera is actually going to see. And so I'm going to just pull back with my camera just to frame this up kind of nicely. And I think I'll just put it in the middle like that. spin, open. Very nice. Okay, so I'm going to continue working in this split view. So I'm going to click back over here, and the last thing I'm going to do for my chest is I'm going to have it exit the scene. So have it come in, spin open, and then at the 60 frame mark, I'm going to key the translate Y, and then I'm going to come over to 80, and I'm going to just slide that down just out of the view of the camera. And we can see what that looks like. Nice. So it kind of starts off smoothly and it ends smoothly as well. And we want the illusion that the chest is actually continuing to fall. So we can come back into our graph editor, window, animation editor, graph editor, and you can see this new green part over here. And this is actually controlling the descent of our chest in the scene. And I'm actually going to go ahead, grab this, and I'm going to select the, without grabbing it, select the tangent handle on the end and pull this up, so that you can see as time goes on, it falls faster and faster, just as it would with gravity. And I can play this. Nice, and I might just spice this up a little bit more by grabbing this key and doing what we did before, curves, weighted tangents, and I'll click on the free tangent weight button, and I'm just going to grab the right hand tangent and just pull it out a little bit, just to give it a bit more of a rounded curve, and we'll see the difference here. Nice. So I can close that out, and then I think I'll set another keyframe on all of the rotation aspects on frame 60. Hang with me, we're almost done. And then on frame 80, I'm just going to go ahead and just rotate this to the side like that. So now we can review our final animation. Nice. So it kind of just looks like the chest is there and then it just kind of falls out of the scene. Not too bad. The only thing we have to do now is to animate the contents coming out of our chest. So I'm going to go ahead and size up my view here. And you can see how we've got our carrot here from before. And I'm going to show you two different ways you could animate this. You can either just have one object coming out, like the carrot by itself. And just later on, I'll show you how to do it with a small particle system. So you can have multiple objects coming out, and you can control that. So what I'll start off by doing is taking my carrot here, and I'll set the translate X to 0. Slide that in there. So now it's inside my chest. And I'm just going to rename this while I'm at it. I'm just going to change this to carrot underscore mesh, just so I know what I'm talking about. And you can see there it is sitting inside my chest. So I'm going to hit the E key and rotate that up. Not too bad. Hit the R key. I'm going to scale it down a little bit just so it fits in my chest. And I'm going to hit the W key, move it down a little bit, just so you can't see it in my camera view there. Okay. Then at frame 25, I'm going to select the visibility, and I'm going to key that. And then I'm going to go one frame beforehand and change the visibility to off. Just type in off there. And now you won't see it until this frame here. And then as it opens, I kind of want my carrot to, I'm going to set a keyframe on 25 for the translate X, Y, and Z, key selected. And then I'm going to move through to frame 38. And I can move this up and out, maybe about there. And then frame 50, I might move it forward a bit more and then down. And we can, I'm just kind of guessing these values to see what looks good. We'll have a look at that. Okay, so it comes out okay, but then it drops down way too fast. So I'm going to grab this value here. If you hold down the shift button and drag in the timeline, you can drag out a red box around my keyframe here. And I'm going to use the arrows to slide that along, and I'm going to put it on 65. And I can take a new look at that now. Not too bad. You can see the same problem. Our carrot drops and then it kind of eases into its destination. So if we wanted, we could quickly jump into the graph editor again, and on the Y, which is the green here, we can just grab that tangent handle and point it down so it looks like it's falling in a more natural motion. So it comes up and then falls down. So you could easily do that. You can animate it any way you'd like. The last way I'm going to show you how to do it is if we set up a little particle system, and you can actually generate as many little particles of whatever your object is, and that in my opinion leads to a much more interesting animation. So I'm going to go ahead, select my caret, and I'm going to select all of the fields here that we've animated, and making sure that it is visible, right clicking them and selecting break connections. And this is going to essentially delete all of our animation. And from here I'm going to go ahead and zero out all of the translate and the rotate values, and I'm going to change the scale back to 1. Make sure my visibility is set to on. Okay, and now we're back to my original caret. So I'm just going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to create a particle emitter. I'm going to go to under the dynamics drop down, particles, create emitter, and that's just going to plop emitter right in the middle of our chest there. So I kind of had to play around with this before, and I'm going to tell you the settings that I used for my animation. So at the top here we can control the type and a whole bunch of different attributes. So I'm going to change the emitter type to directional. We want them to come out of the chest. And I'm going to change the rate from 100 per second down to 50. And I scroll down a bit, and I've got direction, X, Y, and Z. I'm going to change this to 0 in the X, 1 in the Y, and 0.8 in the Z. And I'm going to change my spread to 0.35. And if I play that for you, this is what it's going to do. Not a whole lot. That's because my speed is set at 0. I'm going to change my speed to 200. So that sounds like a bit faster. And now you can actually see these tiny little grey dots that are coming out. And you can see that they actually spread, and they're coming out in the direction that I've specified. So you can see them flying out of the chest there. Nice. But it's a bit more realistic if we add in some gravity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these particles, and I'm going to go to Fields, Gravity. And I'm going to pull that back. That's actually created a little gravity field here. And using my gravity field, I'm going to change the magnitude to 250, and I'm going to change the direction from 1 to -1 in the Y. So instead of going up, that's pulling down. And we can go through and preview this. And you can see our particles are nicely spilling out over the edge there. Cool. Well, there's only a few things left to do. The first thing is that we don't want our particles emitting all the time. We just want some to come out when the chest opens. And of course we can fix that with some keyframes. So I'm going to come along to frame 27. I kind of worked out this was a good frame. And I'm going to go and click on the particles again. And up here I'm going to grab the emitter. And I'm going to look for the rate, how many particles there are. And I'm going to right click this and click set key at 27. And I'm going to change the value to 0. Then I'm going to jump 1 frame ahead and change the rate back to 50. So there was 0, now there's 50. I'm going to jump ahead again now to 35. And I'm going to set another key at 50. And then I'm going to jump 1 frame ahead and change this to 0. So now when I play my animation, there's a short burst where some come out. You can see them, they've stopped here. They fall away, and they fall away with the chest. So that's pretty much exactly what I want my particles to look like. And you can see here that they're just represented by tiny little dots. And that's not really interesting for us. And we made this caret for a good reason. So what we're going to do is instance this particular object. So every single particle in this system is actually its own little caret. And the way we're going to do that is select the caret, select our particles here, and under the particles menu, I'm going to come down to instancer replacement, and I'm going to select the option box, and I want to make sure that there's only the caret mesh in here. So I'm going to click particle 1 and just remove that, just so I've got the caret mesh in here. I'm going to click create, and voila, that creates a caret for every particle, and you can see them spilling out of my chest there. Now, they're all instances of this original geometry. So I can select this, hitting the E key, I can rotate this up so they look a little bit better. And I might just play with the scale a little bit just so I get something looking a little bit more interesting here. And I can play this through. And then my carets pop out and fall away with the chest. And that's actually a pretty cool looking animation right there. Now you can, I would implore you to play around with the settings. Use whatever shape you want, whatever number of particles. If you just want it to go nuts for 30 seconds of carrots spewing out or diamonds or whatever, the creativity is really up to you. So I'd love to see a whole bunch of different designs of this. If you come up with some funny things, or you could even have a mix, some carrots and some diamonds, or whatever it is you want. I'd be really keen to see it. So that pretty much concludes the animation portion. I'm going to just open this, I'm just going to spread this open a little bit here, and you can see that I've got my carrot here, and I don't actually want to see this one, so I'm just going to press the W key, and I'm just going to slightly move that out of the scene, just so now when I play my animation through, it's not in the view of the camera. Nice. Well, that's all looking pretty good. So we're really close to being done. That's pretty much the end of this lesson, but in the next lesson what we're going to do is we're going to take what we've done, we've animated and created, and we'll actually render that out so we can manipulate those images in a program like Final Cut or After Effects, and we'll kind of put the final polish on our little intro here, and we can put in our own nameplate and title as well. Alright, well thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the last video.